You're live.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the show. This is Matthew Rhodes coming to you live at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. And I'm glad that for you that have decided to come and hang out with me for a little while. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit more about psychological shifts. You know, that's something that's going to come up over and over in my presentations. There's always a reaction to any current event, world historical event, drama, tragedy. We continuously adjust our worldview in our lives as well as a country. And so today I'm going to show you how America has shifted its philosophical, belief systems from the beginning up until now. The There have been certain events that have contributed to the their what you would call like the prime movers in certain events, certain historical activities that have happened in our country, and what has resulted from that is what we're going to be talking about. So cause and effect kind of relationships going on this morning. Let's talk about them. It'll give us an opportunity to come up with real answers for what ails us today. Certainly, many people in our country are not happy with current events, where our country is going. There are some good things that are happening, many good things, and that's human nature to tend to try to fix these things. However, we need to really look honestly about how we think as a country and what we could do to get out of it. So I'm going to call this America's philosophical shift, step by step. And if you could take a look at the current slide, that'll tell you that there's going to be some gradual changes that are going on. And let's go. So America's philosophical shift, step by step. Let's talk about the origins of our government, like who we are and where we came from. Our government was set up, by the time our country was established, the founding fathers had come from, a world of tyranny. And no, it wasn't a blissful world where they agreed with everything with each other. They did not necessarily, drink tea every day in harmony. It was a very tumultuous time in our early country's history. The idea of our country was brand new to people. They didn't understand, a government of self-regulation, a government that acted as a negative force. And so, the only thing that we tried to do was to create a government to restrain evil and not to produce good. And the Constitution was originally set up as a set of prohibitions and not permissions. And so that was a very unique time in history. But it was, again, set up as a negative force. And the debates were always about whether government should act at all, not how it should act. That was significant, and you'll see that too if you look into the early charters and articles of incorporation into the early towns, and particularly here in Maine. You don't really see a lot about what government should do, how it should act, and the structural management of monies, for instance. Towns just simply existed for the overwhelming, welfare of the people that were in that town, self-protection, maybe self-interest, but it was not a complicated system, especially at the town level. And that's going to be something that's going to come up over and over again in our discussions. And so that was the first incarnation of our country. But I would say, there was this nationalist shift. And that occurred probably, we look at the next slide, let me get that going over. The nationalist shift, that was a dramatic change in the way our government thought about, and viewed itself. So a good example of that was, that created that was there was the slavery issue in America, which everybody is very familiar with. And but to solve the slavery issue, there emerged this philosophy that the country has to be united under this horrible evil that was, that existed. Slavery was horrible. And we all know that slavery should have never existed in the first place, because the Declaration of Independence said that all men are created equal. But, man being what he is, he'll create variances to suit his own personal purposes. And, but what happened was we shifted from a government of, as a negative force to a government of moral force. And that changed a lot in the hearts and minds of American people, because suddenly it wasn't whether or not you can kill somebody, like let's say Sherman's March to the Sea, where you could just kill non-combatants and men, women, and children that had nothing to do with the war at all. You had to if you got government permission to kill people or to marginalize them in any way, then it was okay. And so the government became a moral force during this nationalist shift, which is a stark contrast to our Declaration of Independence that says that people can throw off their government if they find it oppressive for any means. And that is the natural right of man. But that changes. So the altars and thrones of our society, the altar being the Declaration of Independence and the throne being the Constitution, were forever changed. And this happened because somebody said there's something really evil going on. This is what we have to do. And because of that, we probably began at that point to look at, you'd probably say the first beginnings of identity politics. And so we can't just look at the Civil War as, it's something to free slaves. I mean, the North was still bringing in slaves after the Civil War into Connecticut. The Brown and the what's that other family up there in Rhode Island? They were still bringing in slaves to work and in their plantation down in Barbados. So slavery was still existing. So it was kind of a phony moral order. But the big thing is that our government changed. It changed in the way it thought, the purpose of government, and that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about the purpose of government, and so this goes on for a little while. And in the next slide, we'll see the beginnings of, because the government now gave itself, moral responsibility, because it believed it had duties that were beyond the scope of just, being a negative force and making sure people don't, systematically kill each other or steal, and, just be in charge of the moral order. Man is now seen as a social unit. Freedom is coordinated. It's not innate. Efficiency replaces morality as the highest political virtue. And again, this goes back to the beginnings of our country. The towns were very disorganized. They had no structural mechanisms to manage themselves, and that's why you see in the early beginnings of the managerial revolution, or the administrative revolution in America, which is with Frederick Winslow Taylor, who writes the Scientific Principles of Management, probably around 1890, I want to say, and from that was used as a template for how government would become proficient under men like Charles Merriam, Woodrow Wilson, and Frank Goodenow, who were and Frank Beard as well, who were the original architects of the progressive movement. Government needed to become efficiency, and so administration replaces representation, bureaucracy replaces consent, and politics becomes scientific, not moral. The will of the people is filtered through expert management. And that's the hallmark of the progressive movement, we now have what's called an expert class, the philosopher kings, the committee of the competent, whatever you want to call them. But they are now the guys that will manage your will, your collective will, as they call it. And they will move forward with whatever they believe is going to be the greatest benefit to the greatest number of people. And so what that leads to, obviously, you can see where this is going now if you're paying attention, is the welfare state. And the welfare state is the natural birthing center for the progressive movement, because we've already decided that people are not capable of taking care of themselves. You've decided that you need an expert class of managers, of people that were, scientists to run your cities, to find out what was best for you, to make decisions for you that you're not capable of making on your own. And because of that, dependency breeds dependency. It breeds weakness. There's a great line in a song by the group Rush. Neil Peart, God bless his soul, or he's passed away not too long ago. And in his song Anthem, which was a tribute to a book by Ayn Rand, he says, "Laughing hands and bleeding hearts always cry out for more." So there is not only this idea that people are becoming more dependent, that the welfare state is just creating an increased dependency class, but it's hard for people to even view the government in the absence of creating or providing, being a provider for the things that we need. And so we have to look at ourselves in that way, because this is not just true of Democrats. So just so everybody's clear, for my listeners, this is not a conspiracy, conservative, MAGA kind of rant. This is everybody. This is a shift to everybody's thinking. What has happened to all of us? We believe in our expert, our elected officials believe as soon as they hit office to start hitting that legislation, and putting those bills in. They never think about de-legislation. They never think about getting rid of bills and laws. And that's going to be something we're going to talk about, why that's virtually impossible in our country because of the structural changes that happened under the progressive movement. But suffice it to say that the welfare class exists for all people. And it's all based on the idea of what government should do. And so this is, if a Republican is honest, he will see that he is just as dependent on the state for good ideas to give himself, get himself elected, to brag about himself and talk about how he's going to be a provider class for the people, trickle down economics and all that nonsense. So, so the last logical stage of this is the technocratic age. And this is the ultimate end of government control. So Republicans and Democrats now differ only in how government should operate. So if you listen very carefully to the news, people aren't talking about if the government should act. They're talking about how. So most of the conversations are these moral, fistfights over, who is going to be the better provider, who is the better, sugar daddy for what is. And so public-private partnerships emerge. We have stakeholder capitalism, and administrative governance dominates. And even libertarianism accepts the premise of perpetual government management, monetary policy, regulation of market, psychological orientation, and man is a managed organism. That's the main thing. So we went from a government of people just, where they were self-reliant, they lived in a moral order that required philosophically, for them to provide for each other, to take care of each other with their churches, homes, family units, and stuff like that, extended family units, that kind of thing, to the point where we are accepting government as a monitor of behavior. We have an event, January 6th, let's take a look at something like that. And everybody thought, oh my gosh, the government, there was a bunch of people that were trying to take over the government. So let's be realistic about this. And I'm sorry, it's a little bit of a segue, but I want to make mention of this. Whether or not you believe, you're a Trump fan or not, I want to say that what happened was planned and calculated. Those people should have never have gone to the Capitol, because what was going to emerge out of that was more control and the demonization of a group of people that felt that they were under, this will to fix things. So let's get to the point. You don't use people like generally the MAGA crowd. I got a friend of mine upset because I said, generally, if you want to take over the country and have a revolution, probably the MAGA crowd is not something you're going to want to use, because if you take a look at some of their rallies, half the people are overweight, the other half have diabetes too, and the other half are hypertensive, or the other section. So it's not so nobody on this is really looking at this realistically. the MAGA people look at themselves as victims. But what it ultimately ended up happening, was that an ever increasing technocratic state moved, more surveillance, more acceptance of the deep state, and now groups are completely marginalized against each other, and that is all that does is create more control with people. And so we can't allow ourselves for that to happen. So in conclusion, the summary of all this, and is that we are now in a technocratic age. That's completely honest. And so when we look at the summary, is that man is now a controlled animal, a managed mech organism. You'll be allowed to change your the chips on your little Habitrail cage. And if we look at one of these last slides, I'll show you what our government has in mind for a complete technocratic takeover. It's a nice picture of, you can go to the HUD's website and see how they look to managing people in totality. I mean, of course, now they're using the climate alarmist and the earth is dying, but it's all designed to get you to accept a certain way of living, a certain way that government should act, again, as provider, but in this case, completely managed and put in these little Habitrail apartments, which are now littering the landscape in England, I believe. They're coming to America. We already have them. Some call them 15-minute cities, but you're going to be happy living in these cities. You're going to shop at their stores. You're going to buy their garbage from their stakeholders, from BlackRock, Vanguard, and you're going to consider yourself free and independent because your value system is based on your ability to buy, and to live under this controlled, technocratic government. So now, if anybody were, and understand that the technocratic age is both sides. Nobody is questioning this forward movement, and I provided a very short video of Donald Trump talking about this. Now, some will say he's doing some really great things, and he is. He's trying to dismantle some of the federal agencies. He's trying to eliminate some of the evil that's going on, and I believe that. I believe every president tries to do a number of things that are good. However, he's still a technocratic ruler, and so we'll take a look at this short video.
Well, thank you very much, and it's an honor to be here today. We have first full day as president. We're back, and we had a great first term, but we're going to have an even better second term, and I think we're going to do things that people would be shocked at. We're starting off with tremendous investment coming into our country at levels that nobody's really ever seen before, and they're very happy with the fact that I won the race and that they feel confident in their investments, and it's big money and high quality people. So my first day back from having a nice life, it's my honor to welcome three of the world's leading technology CEOs. And in the case of Larry Ellison, it's well beyond technology. He's sort of CEO of everything. He's an amazing man, an amazing business person. But to announce the largest AI infrastructure project by far in history, and it's all taking place right here in America. As you know, there's great competition for AI and other things, and they're coming in at the highest level. We're joined by Oracle Executive Chairman Larry Ellison, SoftBank CEO, my friend Masa Yoshi-san, and CEO of OpenAI, and I would say by far the leading expert based on everything I read, Sam Altman. So that's great that you're coming in together. That's a massive group of talent and money. Together, these world-leading technology giants are announcing the formation of Stargate. So put that name down in your books, because I think you're going to hear a lot about it in the future. A new American company that will invest $500 billion at least in AI infrastructure in the United States and very, very quickly, moving very rapidly, creating over 100,000 American jobs almost immediately. This monumental undertaking is a resounding declaration of confidence in America's potential under a new president. Let me be a new president. I didn't say it, they did. So I appreciate that, fellas. But it'll ensure the future of technology. What we want to do is we want to keep it in this country. China is a competitor and others are competitors. We want it to be in this country, and we're making it available. I'm going to help a lot through emergency declarations because we have an emergency. We have to get this stuff built. So they have to produce a lot of electricity, and we'll make it possible for them to get that production done very easily at their own plants if they want, where they'll build at the plant, the AI plant, they'll build energy generation, and that will be incredible. But it's technology and artificial intelligence, all made in the USA. Beginning immediately, Stargate will be building the physical and virtual infrastructure to power the next generation of advancements in AI. And this will include the construction of colossal data centers, very, very massive structures. I was in the real estate business. These buildings, these are big, beautiful buildings. Are going to employ a lot of people. And physical campuses and locations currently being scouted nationwide. They're making their choices of locations. I think they have their choice. I'd like to ask Larry, Sam, and Masa to say a few words and just talk about a little bit about what they're doing. And if you have any questions, and then we'll go into a couple of other subjects also. But this is, to me, a very big thing. $500 billion Stargate project. I think it's going to be something that's very special. It'll lead to something that could be the biggest of all. So, Larry, maybe we'll start with you and we'll go down the line. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. We certainly couldn't do this without you. It would simply be impossible. AI holds incredible promise for all of us, for every American. We've actually been working with OpenAI for a while and with Masa for a while. The data centers are actually under construction. The first of them are under construction in Texas. Each building's 500,000 square feet. There are 10 buildings currently being built, but that will.
So it's very interesting. And I'm just going to say this in summary. And if you watch the pattern here, Elon Musk comes in as the hero, the guy, the rescuer swinging a sword to free Americans from oppression, to get rid of federal agencies, which is a better opportunity for us than we realize. But that's another segment. We'll talk about that. But and so he clears the pathway for the acceptance of, now we're not going to have people doing bad things. We're just going to be under control of this great technocratic system, this AI system. And we have to do it because the whole world is doing it. So I'm actually here to help you. And look at me, I'm the leader. This is all a sales pitch for people to accept their own, indentured servitude and lack of representation. So, efficiency and safety now outweigh liberty, and that's the most important thing. Anyway, so I want people to realize that it doesn't matter if you like Trump or dislike Trump or whatever politician. I think it's important that you look at them as in a way that says, do you think that they should be trying to manage your life and manage your existence? And this, there's a lot of other questions that come after that. Can we manage our own lives without the help of government? Do we know how to do that? Do we know how to be people that can get along enough to do the things that are basic, portions of society? How to feed ourselves. How to get back and forth from one place to the other. But we have a president here who starts out as this victim. he's this, ever present victim. He's become the cult hero to a mass group of people who love America, who supportedly love freedom and self-reliance and self-independence. And now he's leading people in another direction, these same self-reliant individuals, to convince them that we need to be, mechanistically controlled at every level. So this is the transformation. It's almost complete. And we'll talk more about what we can do about it in other shows. There are ways that we can disconnect ourselves from this system, and we're going to get to that. I want to thank you for joining me today. And I hope that you continue to fight in your community to undo the control mechanisms that are in place and not accept government as a provider at any level, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, and look at possibilities of different answers that will emerge down the road. Give yourself a chance to realize human beings didn't get to this point in history by being weak and incompetent. So just imagine that you're part of a much nobler crowd than you realize, and we can do this together. So thank you for your time, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.